everyone. How's it going? We're back for another CXO Conversation here on Demand Gen Report. I'm Claudia Tirico, editor of DGR, and I've got Tricia Gellman with me today. She is the CMO at Drift. She's in the hot seat, so I'm excited to have this conversation. Hi, Tricia. How are you? Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Claudia. I'm really excited to be a part of this DGR series.
Yeah, it's so great to meet you. I don't think we've spoken before since you started at Drift. To kick things off, I really wanted to first congratulate you on making Business Insider's list of 20 most important executives shaping the future of marketing technology in 2020. That's so exciting. How do you feel?
I mean, of course, I'm really excited. I'm absolutely honored. I mean, 20, that's a small list. So typically, if I do end up on a list, it's much larger, and I'm probably not in the top 20. But I'm excited to be recognized. I'm hopeful that the reason I'm on this list is because, one, people voted. So thank you to anybody who voted. But two, in their criteria, they talked about how it wasn't just about recognizing great marketers, but also recognizing sort of important technologies for marketers. And so I think what we're seeing in this list is that the organization is recognizing the importance of really connecting in real time and bringing that human engagement to your marketing in today's digital world where everything is digital and we have to figure out how to engage with people when they're also juggling their kids homeschooling and everything else. I think our technology is really helping. So I think that put me pretty high on the list. And then the other thing is that I'm really trying to promote this idea that CMOs need to kind of step up, and that if we don't step up and recognize the importance that we drive revenue and not really just about leads and brand, then I think the role is kind of a little bit in jeopardy. And so hopefully they see this importance as well and this sort of new direction for CMOs.
I love that. And obviously Drift has really come a long way since its inception. I know it started as a conversational marketing platform, but it kind of has evolved into a full revenue acceleration platform. Can you talk a little bit about, the evolution of the company and why now it's just more than, chatbots and kind of chat and text messaging type of engagement?
Yeah, I think our co-founders, David Cancel and Elias Torres, what they saw while they were working in the sales and marketing tech space was that e-commerce was starting to really transform the B2C world where, people are on their mobile devices, people are engaging in social. The world is very now, direct engagement. And then the chat technology was starting to be used in that world to help with support and the customer experience that B2C brands were having. But then when you look at what was happening with B2B, nothing was changing. The world that we had for B2B was very much like, go away, give me your name, I might follow up with you later, I might not. And so they recognized that for marketers, we were in this place where we needed to do direct response and really help to drive leads 5 years ago. How could we use the same technology to really transform lead creation? And so if you think about 5 years ago, that was really a time when we're getting to much more sophistication in terms of how marketing is being measured and also companies really wanting to increase that engagement and that lead. And so conversational marketing was born. And as you look at what happened over time, it was a great way to kind of eliminate a bunch of the forms that people had and to create that conversation and to increase the conversion of a website. But what we started to see is that even though we thought what we were doing was helping marketers generate leads, actually we were doing a lot more. We're creating a whole new experience for people on a website, which was enhancing and differentiating brands. We were changing the way that marketers hand off leads to salespeople because you didn't have that form and then a nurture and then 5 other touches or that struggle to reconnect. You're actually like cutting out that entire flow. And so now we're changing the relationship between marketing and sales. And as we've grown and as we've looked at what our customers are doing, we've seen that, in fact, the idea of delivering leads is an antiquated idea, and that in today's day and age, especially when everything is digital, marketers really need to think about not how are they generating leads, but how do those leads convert, and then how are they helping to drive revenue for the company. And so it's really not just about conversational marketing, it's also conversational sales. And when you bring those two things together, you really can accelerate the revenue. And so that's why we're now talking about Drift as a revenue acceleration platform.
Yeah, and that's great. And, conversational marketing, I'd love to kind of And sales, obviously, I'd love to kind of touch on it some more because, given the current state of the year, maintaining a human-to-human connection with your audience and with honestly anyone these days, given the social distancing protocols, it's more critical than ever, right? So how are some of your clients taking conversational marketing and sales to the next level in this? And I hate to say it, but it's, the new normal.
Yeah.
I have to really force myself to stop saying that. But yeah, so how can they really, take it to the next level to stay connected authentically with buyers and prospects and just audiences in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things that we've seen through the past 6 to 9 months, which is people need to have more empathy. They need to really think about what is like that human experience. And although we don't have the high touch experiences that we had before, and we are now leveraging digital more, there are ways to use technology to create that high touch and then to pair that with humans. And so, for example, Zenefits is a customer that is working, in the HR space, and they've actually seen an increase in the amount of volume of people coming to their website. But in today's day and age, with uncertainty in the economy, nobody's throwing huge amounts of headcount at, a larger volume of leads. And so what they've been able to do is they've been able to use the technology to engage with even more people than they did before, because, data shows that 81% of people do not want to fill out a form. So if you remove the form and you just engage with people through the chat, you actually have the ability to connect with more people. You create this great experience that people have a positive impression of your brand, but then holy cow, now do you need more people? No, what we found is that through the use of technology, you can qualify the people. And because our platform brings together all the data that you have in your tech stack, we can help you identify early on which are your highest quality people and which are the people who maybe have less of a buying decision. So, for example, if a prospect or customer comes to your site, you could see like, oh, this is a VP level, C-level person. Okay, we should direct them to speak with a sales rep right away. Versus if it's a lower level person, you might, through the conversation, direct somebody to a webinar or an ebook or something like that. So you can really direct the conversation in different ways. And this efficiency and this ability to pair the technology with the humans has delivered like tons of value for Zenefits. We have another customer, Smartling, who does translation services. And, they've been able to double the conversion from their website. And all they did was they implemented 3 questions. They said, okay, you're here on our website. Do you want to know about our translation services? Are you more interested to understand how our technology is different from other translation technology? Or do you really want to meet with somebody? And by being that direct and upfront, they're really qualifying immediately, like where are the people in the buying cycle? And they've been able to accelerate their implementation of Drift, but also accelerate the revenue that they're driving for their company.
I love that. It kind of just takes out all the fluff in a way, and you kind of get to the point. Like, do you need my help, or are you just here browsing and things like that? So that's a really great strategy. Are there any examples or instances where, using the platform and any kind of conversational marketing or Drift to connect with audiences within different organizations? So I imagine it goes way beyond, just a chat feature on a website. So if somebody comes to the site, can it be used, from a sales point of view, growth marketing point of view, or any of those kind of different organizations within a brand?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Drift, it's really being used across the board because what we are recognizing right now, and we're kind of talking about the world being in a whole new era. The era is the revenue era. And the reason that we're in the revenue era is that, especially in the current economic situation, people have started to realize that revenue isn't just about new business growth. It's as much about renewal and then expansion. And so it's really about the life cycle of your customer. And so Drift, you can use Drift to engage with prospects, to really have that conversation up front. We've seen event teams using Drift because it's such a great qualifier for getting people to register for events. Instead of having somebody fill out a 10-field form, like just have that conversation, understand with them, like, oh, do you want to attend our event? Okay, great. Why? Okay, let me send you your confirmation. Where should I send it? Okay, now you're registered. I mean, the conversion on that is like 5 to 8x. And we've seen people like triple the amount of registration that they've had for their virtual events by using Drift. Obviously, we were just talking about, the inbound flow and really helping for the qualification to get to that productivity with the SDRs. But sales teams have been using our AI component of our solution as well to replicate their best SDRs without adding SDRs. And so the sales organizations are starting to see that through AI, they can have more conversations on the site. They can take the headcount that they would have had for additional SDRs and put that into AEs. And so now you're moving that budget from a cost center to a revenue generator. So that's been really helpful. And then I would say on the CS side, really having that ability to engage with your customer to identify, like, where is this customer in their life cycle? How are they behind in their onboarding and their implementation? Are they a power user? And so we want to talk to them about, like, why are you even on the site? We know you're great. Really across the entire suite of go-to-market, we've seen a lot of use cases.
That's great. And it kind of just shows that level of convenience for the buyer, the audience, the prospect, whoever it is on the other end, that, they don't have to spend too much time, filling out forms and things like that. So that convenience is definitely a great feature to have. So for those not really doing any type of conversational marketing or sales, but want to start, or for those already doing it but want to improve, what kind of tips or takeaways or advice do you have for them right now? What should they be kind of doing or thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, back to your question about the history of Drift. So Drift, we've been in business for 5 years. And I think in the very beginning, like, we created the category of conversational marketing. Like, there wasn't anybody doing that before. And so quickly we created this category, and it's become pretty crowded, honestly. And a lot of people think of conversational marketing just as that chatbot down in the corner. And so what a lot of people are doing is they just have live chat. They only have the ability to have a conversation if they have a human on that back end. And the things we've spoken about already in terms of the qualification with the bot, that doesn't happen. So you have to have people in order to engage that technology. I would say that's a majority of what people are doing, because there are a lot of people that are offering that as just a solution. And that's actually, you can get that from Drift in our free solution. So if that's what you want to do, get it from us for free. But then if you really want to help to accelerate the revenue in your organization, I think there's a couple of things you can think about. One is personalization. How are you using your website, not as like the previous sort of billboard of your message that I think most people had, but really as an integrated component to your full go-to-market? So if you have a sales team that's pushing on specific use cases and having dialogue with specific target accounts, when those people come to your website, how do you recognize that message, and how do you accelerate the engagement between the individual who's showing their highest intent because they're on your site to that salesperson? And with Drift, you have that ability to create that instant chat directly with the salesperson, because we have that routing in the alignment and integration with your CRM of, like, who is this customer and then who should they be talking to. So that, I think, is an accelerated view of how you can use the technology. The other thing is that a lot of people spend a ton of money, especially now. A lot of people spend a lot of money focusing on their digital campaigns, and especially in today's world. I mean, we don't have a lot of in-person activity that we can do, so people have been doubling down on the digital. But then what happens is you have very targeted ads that you're running, and typically when you get to the landing page, you just treat everybody the same. Or when people get to your website, because they didn't go to your landing page, they just like went and researched your brand, like there's no connection between that message in the digital ad and what you're showing. And so by bringing the technologies all together, I think you have that ability to create the personalization with the message, with who the person is, where they are in their life cycle with you as a brand. And that, I think, is really a way to accelerate. I mean, going back to some of the case studies, Zenefits was able to shorten their buying cycle from 6 months to 12 days in some cases. And I think, if you look at 5 years ago when B2B was all about forms, there are ways that you can enhance that conversion from your forms. You can use data augmentation to help people pre-fill the forms. You can use email-based triggers so that when the person completes the form, they automatically get a follow-up email, right? It's not waiting for some AE or somebody else to actually take an action, but a bot is doing that. And Drift offers that as well. But I think really circumventing the form altogether and having the conversation, answering those 3 simple questions like Smart LinkedIn or whatever it might be is really a great way to help people.
Awesome. And, I take it having that kind of engagement with the audience and with the buyer or prospect, that you're getting some really valuable insights, right? And it's first party data. It's almost, you're practically gauging that buyer's intent. So do you agree? Is that a really great way to really gather more information about your audience? What kind of insights can organizations really glean from having this type of strategy?
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought this up because I don't think that people think of conversational marketing and what Drift is offering as an insights tool. A lot of times people say, oh, I'm not ready to implement conversational marketing or really think about, the impact and benefit I can have of a revenue acceleration platform because my website is antiquated and I'm embarrassed by it. And we're like on a 2-year strategy, or, now today, like they've accelerated it to a 6-month strategy to move things forward. And so really one of the benefits of having these conversations is you start to see what it is that people want from your website. Like, why are they coming there? If somebody has made the effort to get to your website, they have high intent. Like, they're not just there because they're just like, oh, I wanted to just kind of like waste some time, right? If they want to do that, they're on YouTube or they're on Instagram or they're somewhere else. So I think, if someone's on your site and they're looking for something, by going through all of the chat history, which we serve up to our customers, you can see what are the things that people are asking for. You can use this insight to then redo your website if you want to. Like, if everyone is coming looking for questions about specific features of a new edition of product you put out, like, you need to change your homepage so it's easier for people to find that. And that's going to overall help with that experience and help people get to the information. The other thing is that for salespeople, they actually then get that thread. It gets attached into lead records and account records. And so they can actually have a more informed follow-up.
Very interesting. And I imagine all of these types of use cases obviously really do well when you're trying to make a case for it, and you want to buy the technology, or you want to really start having this strategy. So what are some of the best ways to measure the impact and the success of conversational marketing and sales, to kind of really make a case for it with the C-level and the higher ups?
So if we look at measurement, I think, it's definitely different, the things you're going to measure for marketing than for sales. And at the end of the day, however, it all boils up to revenue. And one of the things that you can really start to measure with Drift is this revenue acceleration. How long does it take for you to go from lead to opportunity, which will be accelerated, especially because you're cutting out a lot of those steps that you would formerly have had with a form and having to do follow-up later, et cetera. And then also from opportunity to close. And why is that? It's because you're able to engage with people that are higher up in the organization. As a VP or a C-level, most people don't fill out forms, but they're more than happy to have conversations, especially if you do it at like 8 or 10 o'clock at night with a bot. I mean, like, that's the time people have time, right? So like, if you're able to connect with people when they're available and have that relevant conversation, that acceleration can happen. The other thing is productivity, which is different for marketers than it is for sales. But on the marketing side, the ability to get a higher return from the dollar that you're spending is really impactful. And so we like to look with people at how much are you spending, what did you get before Drift, and what did you get after? And then on the sales side, we are able to qualify a lot better, and we're able to like help bring in higher quality leads that convert at a higher rate. And so you can look at the productivity of your SDR, or if you're going direct to AEs, like what is that productivity per rep? Because you're now in a place where the technology is, kind of deflecting the people who really would have been a waste of time for you. And so without adding more people, you're able to get to the revenue faster.
Yeah, and that sounds like a win-win for any company or any CEO or C-level executive for sure.
Yeah, and I think, back to your previous question in terms of that intent, I think especially today, because our world is digital, the website really is one of the most high intent places. And if you're not in a situation where you're able to engage people when they have that high intent, like they're literally on your website right now, like you're missing out on that opportunity. But, that's like a perfect world where you're able to engage every single person. And so recently we came out with this product called Drift Prospector, where we're able to just aggregate for the salespeople all of this intent. And we're able to look across all of your tech stack. So if you've invested in an intent vendor, let's say like 6sense or demand base, like you can pull that information in. You can pull in the information from your marketing automation platform so that you can see like which people are actually engaging with your campaigns. And we're able to bring this all together at an account level so that we can score the account for sales. And they can log in and they can see where is it intent and where is it the highest? Where do I have people not just engaging with my first party marketing, but with third party and with my website, and who? Is it anonymous people? Is it specific people? I get that view of the buying committee. And then by having that view, I know who to follow up with. And then that really contributes to the sales productivity that we're talking about in conversational sales. Because I mean, I know in working with SDR teams and outbound sellers, the people that are prospecting, the number one measure that people have as a lead indicator is how much activity did you do? You're not going to drive a deal if you don't start with making phone calls and emails and having activity. But there are tons of sellers who are out there who hit their activity goal and never hit their quota. And so what we're looking at is this high intent of people being on your site and informing people to say, hey, look, this is the buying committee that's on your site. These are the people. Spend your activity and your time here versus wherever you thought you were going to go before, because then that's going to help you really hit your number.
I love that. That's great. Let's shift things over to talk about you for a little bit.
Okay.
Tell us about your role as CMO at Drift. How long have you been there? What kind of, what are your priorities and key learnings so far? I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you might be coming up to like a year anniversary soon.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. In my former role, I was really busy doing all these transformative things that CMOs do, like relaunching the brand, redoing the website, launching the first ever customer conference. And so when I agreed to come work at Drift, I actually stayed at my former job 3 months. And so this month, August, I passed my 1-year anniversary of agreeing to work at Drift.
Okay.
And then I didn't start at Drift until November, actually, because we had our customer conference was scheduled for November 4th. And I agreed with the CEO that it was high risk if I left before then. And so in November will be my 1-year anniversary. And it's so hard to believe that it's gone by so fast. And at this point, actually, I've worked for Drift more from my home and my home office here than I have actually been in the office. But I mean, that's just our new world of remote work and being on the West Coast. We are based in Boston, and the majority of our employees are in Boston. The majority of our marketing team is in Boston. But I was hired to help spearhead the efforts on the West Coast. And so I am here in San Francisco.
Awesome. So what are some of your key priorities for the remainder of the year, given, our current circumstances?
When I started at Drift, my biggest goal was to ensure that we had a really solid relationship between marketing and sales. I think that's the big benefit that Drift offers to the market. And so we need to, be the showcase of what the future of sales and marketing looks like, use our own tools, use our own solutions, and really look at like, how does that push forward this relationship? And so what's been great is that we've been able to transform that, and we've even been changing our sales process to align with the messages and to make sure that we're using the technologies and our messages together. I think the one place that most companies struggle with, but now it's obvious that you have to prioritize, is this post-purchase customer engagement, customer lifecycle. And I think that's one of the things that we've been working really hard on that. We started the year with a person on my team who owns what we call customer experience. But it's just been accelerated in terms of the importance of it by moving to a digital world where, your digital engagement is more and more important. It's put pressure on the organization to deliver for our customers. And so, investing in that part of the business is something that we're really trying to wrap up this year so that next year, we really truly can say that we're delivering on that vision of marketing owning the whole life cycle from beginning to end.
Yeah, that's great. And given the title of our series, CXO Conversations, are you having any interesting conversations with other marketing leaders? Are there any kind of issues or priorities or just top questions that you're hearing from your peers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been one of the best things of the past 6 months is that like everything is so different that the community has really joined together to have much more open conversations. I participate at least once a week in something that's called like a CMO coffee talk or a CMO networking event or whatever it might be. All of them not recorded so that people feel comfortable just really sharing what's happening. And I think, a couple of things. I think the role of the CMO is really changing. I think like CMOs have to step up and really sign up to be a peer, not sort of like in service to sales, and really take accountability for that revenue number. And the CMOs who are doing that are really becoming strategic partners with the CEO because they have the ability to not just look at the inbound marketing and how they're driving the brand, but really how are they defining the market they go after? And by defining that market, how are the marketers partnering with product to make sure that we're building the right product and we have the roadmap in place to really win with that market, and versus building one thing over here and then going to try and sell to somebody else over there. And then that helps to align sales and it helps to align CS. And I think also right now, like everybody being remote, it puts a big strain on the employees. And CMOs are really talking about how they can work on employee brand and employee engagement, making sure that there's really clear communications through enhanced internal comms. And I mean, I think that's super fun because, again, like we talked about this need to be human, and it's not just human in our marketing outbound, but it's really like the people that we're investing in our own company.
Definitely. I definitely agree. I feel like everybody has gotten closer given the fact that we're all so far away from each other internally. So that's awesome. Tricia, this has been an awesome conversation. Any parting words on, just the future of conversational or revenue acceleration and how it's going to all evolve as we continue to navigate this weird rest of the year?
I mean, who knows? Like, there's always some new thing. We thought like working from home and dealing with coronavirus was going to be like the next thing that we're going to have to deal with. And then like a month later, all of a sudden we have massive protest and Black Lives Matter, and really thinking about individuals and like, what are the statements we're doing and how do we use our voice? I think, companies have really had to look internally to say, like, what do we stand for and what is our role? And then I think marketing plays a big role in that, which is something different. We've had to look really hard at the life cycle and not just the importance of going and building our brand to reach more people, but really prioritizing our existing customers. And so I think all of these things are really important for next year. I'm excited for next year because I think maybe it'll continue to be disruptive all the time, but in disruption, you get the opportunity to innovate. And I think that's something that also, my peers and other people I've been talking to have really embraced in this time. It's like, we don't have a normal. And if you don't have a normal, then like, how can you remain connected to like the old ways you used to do things? You have to change in some way. And it also opens up that opportunity to test and to innovate. And that's really fun. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, I love that. And it really, even some of the conversations I've been having and then just, internally and, for the publication itself, for any stories we're writing, it's really awesome to see how creative everyone has gotten in this past year because, obviously all like our old traditional things have gone out the window. So it's time to really be creative. And the fact that, you just mentioned, innovation and being able to test and have that opportunity that's definitely key. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, keep going.
One thing I was going to say is like I had a networking chat last night, and one of the things that one of our customers was talking about was how they started to do like podcast promotion. They were doing like radio advertising, TV advertising. These are things they had never done before. And mostly it was about the brand level. And I think there is a lot of noise in the market now. We've always, as marketers, been trying to cut through the noise. But when you're at the same time, dealing with your Netflix feed and your meetings and your Zoom and your kids being in school, like there's even more noise. So there is an importance in your brand and using it to differentiate. And so I think this idea of like looking at these different channels, and one of the main benefits that they talked about was the brand building, but also the excitement they're able to generate with their employees of being able to see their brand, on TV and things like that. So, I think it's just really exciting to see that experimentation. To wrap up, I want to just call out that, the topics we've talked about today are really things that I'm really passionate about. So much so that I have a monthly newsletter, and then I have my own podcast series. And so, if people are passionate about this changing role of the CMO and really the new pressures that marketers are under, then I encourage people to continue to visit DGR, but at the same time, check out the newsletter and the podcast series.
Yeah, of course. There's plenty of digital space to go around, and definitely send over, links to access to sign up for your newsletter or access your podcast, and we'll definitely include it in the little snippet right up under the video so everybody could check it out. Thank you so much, Tricia. This has been awesome. I really enjoyed meeting you and talking with you. And thank you to everyone who took the time out to watch. That's a wrap on another episode of CXO Conversations. I'll catch you all on the next one.